or to all people? Peter asked a beautiful yet brilliant question because as Jesus was illustrating the faithful, the elect were a part of that conversation, but also the non-elect, so to speak. Those who were called by Christ and those who were just there to hear what Christ had to say. Peter asked this brilliant and beautiful question, Lord, do you speak this parable to us or to everybody? It's important that you recognize that when Jesus' word is going forth, you need to make sure that he's talking to you. You don't want to be in a vicinity when a word is going forth and you're not sure if he's talking to you. You ever been in a situation when somebody said something disrespectful to you and you was like, who you talking to? I know you ain't talking to me. It's important that you know who's talking to you and what's being said. But in verses 42 through 44, we're going to get to some meat and some potatoes. It says, and the Lord said, who then is that faithful and wise servant, whom his master will make ruler over his household to give them their portion of food in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you that he will make him ruler over all that he has. Jesus answers Peter by distinguishing servants. In verse 42, he talks about an exemplary servant. Exemplary means one to be desired, or somebody that holds a trait that someone can say is high in quality. Verse 43, he talks about an extolled servant. And in verse 44, he discusses an exalted subject. Now, while these pertain to one particular person, they all pertain to particular sons or daughters of Christ. You may be a servant, you may be a subject, you may be a steward, but it don't matter if you're not a son or a daughter of Christ. All of these pertain to sonship. Let's deal with verse 42, the exemplary steward. He says, and the Lord said, who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his master will make ruler over his household to give them their portion of food in due season? Let's look at the character of this steward. The character of this steward is known as somebody who is faithful, which means trustworthy in Greek, but also wise, which means thoughtful in Greek. Check this out. That person is someone who is faithful or trustworthy. That is contingent upon dependability. They are dependable. They are someone that Christ can depend on to do their work, regardless of the activity. To do their work, regardless of what's going on around them. To do their work, regardless of the hardships that they encounter. Who then is that faithful, trustworthy, dependable steward? But then he says wise, which is thoughtful. That pertains to reliability and thought. Being very considerate. Check this out. This is amazing to me. That God will allow them to be dependable in their acts, yet reliable in their consideration. And he says they are both now faithful and wise. Sometimes it's not just about what you do, brothers and sisters. It's also about what you think. Because so a man thinketh in his heart. So see, oh, we got a Bible believing, Bible quoting church. So it is actually the wise and the faithful. Because the reason why you can't be faithful is because you designated some wisdom to be faithful. Jesus says, who then? He answers Peter. You know, Peter asked the question, is this for us or for everybody? He said, I'm going to answer by answering this way. Who then is that faithful and wise steward? In other words, you're going to be able to answer the question yourself. Who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his master will make ruler over his household? I talked to y'all already about kathysime. It means to be a permanent ruler over anything God established you to be over. So I'm not going to talk to y'all about that. But today I want to talk to y'all about the household. Who then is that faithful and wise steward whom his master will make ruler over the therapia, household? Well, we get another English word for what? Therapy. Is it possible that Jesus is saying those who are faithful and wise bring cures and healing to any environment that they go to? Could it be possible that the reason why the environment is sick is because it needs some healing? Is it possible that God's putting your hands to some places that are barren, that you may produce some fruit? Maybe God wanted to be dead, so when you get it, it can live. The faithful and wise stewards bring healing or cures wherever they go. So God will allow a position that you hold or some activities that you are in to actually be hard so you can bring cures. To actually be desolate that you may bring life. So it can be sick that you can make it well. And he knows what you're doing. Who then is that faithful, trustworthy, dependable, and wise, thoughtful, reliable steward that's going to make it better when they get there? So I want to put some emphasis on the therapia. I want to put some emphasis on the household. I want to put some emphasis on the therapia. I want to put some emphasis on the household. I want to put some emphasis on the therapy. I want to put some emphasis on the household. What I'm saying is God wants all of us to act as authoritative figures of therapy. But I'm sick. He's your healer. Let him do some healing in your life. Let him bring some cures in your life. Let him bring some solutions in your life, so in your household, in any area he's giving you authority in, activity in, you can just exude what he's doing in your life. Who then is that faithful and wise steward? Whom his master will make ruler over his household and give them their portion of food in due season. This portion of food word in Greek, it sounds like an Autobot or something. It's Cytometron. Cytometron, it sounds like a transformer. It's essentially saying a chunk of meat, a handful of grain. It's a particular portion for something that's been designated towards. The portion of food given is contingent on the amount of good works provided. You can only get as much of the portion as the work you put in. Okay. Some of us don't do no work, yet we want big handfuls. We don't do Nathan and his twin nothing. Yet we want the double scoops. Y'all remember the Raisin Bran? 2 scoops. You know, 1 scoop won't do. I need the double. This is only contingent on the amount of good works, and a good work is anything that you do for Christ. So if you do it with Christ in mind, wise, then the faithful work will be blessed. Is this making sense? And he knows that it is a portion that will be designated and set to aside exclusively for you in due season. That's why Galatians 6 and 9 is so important. Don't be weary while doing good, for in due season you will reap if you faint. Jesus will give the faithful and the wise steward their chunk of blessings when the time's right, both in this world and in the world to come. Ooh-wee, I'm about to run. He knows what you're dealing with, and he's going to reward it when the time's right. My daddy, before he went to be with the Lord, my daddy had this big problem, which was called his big hands. And he would give me more food than my little hands could eat. So at times he would just grab food and put it on my plate, and I couldn't eat it all. There are times when God is giving you so much that you can't have it all. There will come a point in time in your life where God's going to give you a scoop, and it's going to be bigger than what you actually deserve. And God's going to tell you on earth that don't all belong to you. On earth, that's not all for you. Some of that belongs to other people. But as the old folks would say, when Shiloh come, then all that he gives you, that portion, will belong to you forevermore. That's the exemplary servant, steward. But verse 43, we have the extolled, or one who's worthy of praise, servant. Brother Blessing, this is going to bless you. He said, blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Look at this. Jesus gives a pronouncement of praise to the faithful and wise servant. It's one thing for me to call you blessed, but it means a whole much more when the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords says you're blessed. Blessed is that doulos, servant. Blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing. Doing, find so doing, not idle. Doing, active, not sitting down with their hands underneath their, doing. Blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing. Active, animate, putting their hands to the gospel plow, doing something for Jesus Christ, doing everything they do for the Lord. Blessed is that servant. Doing and not idle. But if we would read this text and go back to verses 35 and 40, which I won't do because of time, which means that may be some homework for some of you, the indication of the text is that Jesus sees the servant before he knocks at the door. So previously, Jesus was talking in verses 35 through 40 that when he comes and knocks, they may open to him immediately. The indication is that Jesus is there watching them before he knocks at the door. Jesus is there before he makes himself known. You got to get this. He's watching presently, yet he ain't knocking currently. Teach, Jacob. Thank you. He's already there watching, waiting, evaluating, and he's waiting to see, are you going to recognize that he's there? It's kind of like, I used to do this with all my kids, all of them. I'm starting to do it with my nieces and nephews as well. I will go to the school and just watch them. They have no idea that I'm there. I've done it with my oldest. I'm doing it with my youngest now. And when JL get her butt in school, I'm going to do it with her too. I will go and just stand at the door of the class, and they won't even know it. And I'll watch them. I will be in the hallways, and sometimes I blend in. Sometimes folks be like, Uncle Jacob, shut up, man. I ain't supposed to be here. You ain't supposed to know I'm here. And I watch them. I watch them in the cafeteria, and I watch them in the hallways, and I watch them in the classroom. I'm watching them, and they don't even know it. Here's the blessing. The blessing is Jesus will bless the faithful and wise servants because he knows the challenges of their task. Isaac, you listening? Son, are you listening? I want you to get this. When you put in the hard work of forgiveness, when you put in the hard work of obedience, when you have to swallow the bitter pill of pride, when you have to undergird the load of disrespect, when you have to be a bipartisan of the shepherd of undermining, when you are doing the work of him who called you while it is day, he knows the challenges that you face. He's not closing his eyes. He's not ignorant nor oblivious to what you're doing for him that he may get the glory. He sees it all. He knows it all. And when he come back, he's going to reward it all. So I have an announcement to make, and this is why I call my son's name out. You got to watch your kids when they go to the bathroom, y'all, because they do stuff that kids do. And Isaac had to clean up the toilets and the urinals because they had cat litter and stuff in it. And Isaac was cleaning it, and he didn't know exactly how to go about it, but he wanted to make sure he went about it the right way. He didn't have an attitude when he did it. He wasn't like, oh, I don't want to do it. He came to me and asked, he said, Daddy, they got some cat litter in the urinals, but they also have some cat litter on the floor around the toilets. And he wanted to know, how do I clean it up? Whenever God allows you to encounter a dirty situation and it's nasty and you don't want to put your hands on it, you got to go to God and ask him, how do I clean it up? And as nasty as it is, don't think God ain't allowed it to get as nasty as it became. Because he knows that as nasty as it is, the greater the This is why he says, blessed, extolled, worthy of praise is this particular servant, whom his master will find active and not idle when he comes. But in verse 44, we have an exalted subject. And I'm about to sit down. An exalted subject. He says, truly I say to you, he will make him ruler over all that he has. The he will make him ruler is the master, which will be Jesus. Jesus will make faithful and wise subjects permanent rulers over all that he gives. We get excited about the extolment, but we forget that they have to put in some work. You want the high regard of blessings and reward without doing the low work of a servant. Let me tell you how it works. From Jesus' point of view, it is flipped. The lower you feel as you work faithfully and wisely, the higher he'll exalt you and reward you for being faithful and wise. Jesus challenges all of us with dirty work. Yeah, I know you want to be creme de la creme, spotlight in the limelight. I got you. He wants you to be in the dark, behind the scenes. He wants you to be in your closet on your knees. He wants you to be forgiven. He wants you to be working. He wants you to be active. He wants you to be faithful. Because as you continue to do so, Sister Stephanie, he's going to bless you to climb out. I know that some of y'all don't like that. Some of y'all don't want to hear that. And I got some more words that y'all ain't going to like and want to hear. I got a math equation. I got a math equation for y'all. I didn't come to church to get taught math. Humility in God plus hard work for God equals higher by God. Humility in God plus hard work for God equals being brought higher by God. I didn't come to church to get taught some scientific equation, especially if you ain't got a corresponding scripture to give me. I love our church. I love our church so much. I do. I actually have two, for example. James chapter 4, verse 10. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and he will raise you up. But just in case that ain't good enough for you, 1 Peter 5 and 6. Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, and in due time he will exalt you. This is why those scriptures are so important. The reason why those scriptures are so important because hard work, humility in God, and hard work for God equals higher by God. That means as you are underneath his authority doing his work, he's already reaching down for the prepared time to bring you up. So when you recognize that everything I do is under his authority, everything I do is anchored in my humility in him, I become light enough for him to pick me up. That's the equation. But the equation must also be worked. Because if you don't work the equation ain't fail. Now, the exaltation is a word that we love to hear. Real quick, sidebar. Some of us want to be exalted just for being who we are. So? You ain't nobody special. You ain't did nothing worthy of exaltation. You miss church 30 days out of a month and come on the 31st. Won accolades, adulation, and praise. Cussed out 45 people before you got to the sanctuary. Skipped over the least of us. Then come up in here talking about worthy as I. See, this pastor can't go here, but I can. Don't expect exaltation when you're worthy of being exempt. But back to the sermon. Because exaltation is a word that we love. It's an experience we all desire to experience eventually. Stop living your life for exaltation on earth and live your life for exaltation in the world to come. It's not that God does not want you to experience promotion. He does not want you to not even have a desire for promotion. But don't live your life for promotion on earth. Because many of us are seeking promotion at the expense of holiness and righteousness. Meaning we'll step over you, we'll backstab you, we'll do anything we can for the exaltation. Stop living or basing your life on exaltation on earth, because it ain't going to last forever. But the exaltation that Jesus will allow in the world to come will be kathysomai. Once he places you over it, you will always have charge over it. Now, some of us are depressed right now because that means more responsibilities. I got to do more responsibilities. I got to do some more work. I'm trying to do all this work now, so I ain't got to do no more. I ain't got to do no more work. The responsibilities of the new world will come without the burdens of the old world. This is what I mean. Have you ever worked with people who were good to work with? Maybe some of y'all haven't. If you've ever worked with people who are easy and good to work with, you realize, man, that's a blessing. I mean, they may have as Pastor say, they quirks, but they good to work with. Well, the new world will not be contaminated by sin. So everyone and everything that God gives you charge over will be easy to work with. It will be all plentiful and bountiful blessings. It will never be a regard where you say, I don't want to do this. Everything that he gives you charge over will be a blessing because it will not be burdened by sin. You will not be plagued by sin. The people will not be plagued by sin. The it won't be plagued by sin. It will all be a blessing. Now, the last thing I'm going to say, and I'm about to sit down. Y'all remember Peter asked that question, right? Lord, do you speak this parable to us only or to everybody? Jesus never gave him a direct answer. He never said, I'm talking to everybody. He never said, I'm talking to the disciples. He went to another parable or to an extended parable to show I'm talking to who knows I'm talking to them. As God is blessing me to preach right now, some of y'all know he's talking to you. Therefore, you can get excited. For you who don't know if he's talking to you, it's time for you to ask the question, am I a servant or am I a sitter? And I pray y'all been blessed.
Can we say praise